How's it going, guys? ThunderBuddy01 here. Do you want to provide extra support to the ThunderBuddy01 Media Network? Do you have extra cash lying around? Become an official ThunderBuddy superfan today. For just $2.99 a month, you'll get access to members-only perks, such as shoutouts, exclusive badges and emojis, priority replies to your comments, and when ThunderBuddy01 himself feels like it, early access to new videos. Do not delay, join now. You can use the link in the top of the description, or the blue join button. And as always, strike them likes, flood that subscribe button, and twist that notification bell.
Attention all units. We have a code 6 party failing to stop for police. Supervisor requesting units on non-priority calls. Switch over to TAC 2 and monitor the chase.
How's it going, guys? ThunderBuddy01 here. It's about 2:15 on April 16th, and let's just say that it has been a fat minute since I've done an updated weather radio collection video. Like, the last time I did something like this was back in May of 2021. Also, pardon me sounding like absolute shit. Let's just say my allergies are kicking my ass. So, if I sound stuffed up and congested, that's why. I'm not sick, knock on wood, but yeah, it's just my allergies. So I'm gonna try and get this done like as fast as I can, because I really only have so much time to make these types of videos anymore. So, alright, so we're gonna start over here with my Uniden BC345 CRS. Right now it's playing WALK 97.5, and it's actually hooked into my EasyCast right there. It was a little bit confusing for me to use it first, but as time went on, I eventually learned how to use it. It's really great. It's definitely a great scanner to start off with, and it makes for a great monitor for like hooking into an NDEC or anything really, or even running a stream for no weather radio or even FM. So yeah, there's that. Next over here is my Midland HH54 VP2 version 16.
Mile. For tonight, east wind.
This I got December 24th, 2014, so it was on Christmas Eve. This is when I originally got it. This one I got late. This specific one I got later on, because there was like some stuff falling apart behind the actual faceplate that I couldn't fix. But yeah, I've had an HH since 2014. It's definitely a great handheld radio to start off with. Unfortunately, they're not as common as they are now. Actually, no, they're not as common as they were before. So you really gotta hunt around on eBay trying to find one of these. And even then, it's like the batteries on the HHs typically are flat by the time you get them. So you have to use like a third-party battery. I have all Midland batteries for my HHs, but yeah, you can't really find HHs as much as you used to. Let's do a quick siren test. So there's that. Definitely a great little handheld to start your collection with. Next is another one of my Christmas Eve radios that I got. It's the AlertWorks EAR10 White. As you can see, I modified the backlight to give a white appearance. I also modified the warning, watch, and advisory lights to be red, yellow, and blue. I don't really do radio modifications as much as I used to because I'm just terrified of breaking something, which is a pretty understandable fear. But yeah, I got this December 24th, 2018. Reception on it is good. The only reason I have an external antenna here is because I have my network switch right there and the NX right there, and that's just a lot of interference to deal with. So yeah, I just have this RCA cable acting as an antenna.
Southern Connecticut. Throughout the area.
I'm I'm not really going to be doing siren tests on these radios because my dad is watching TV and he's not really too crazy about the sirens going off. So, yeah, just a quick little showcase and overview. Yeah, this radio's reception is pretty good. The antenna's, I guess, okay. The only downside to this is that, unfortunately, it's kind of limp. But I guess the good thing is that since this is a top-mounted antenna, I don't have to worry about it like flopping over to the side as much. Alright, so next over here, this isn't really a radio, but this is my Tyler portable TV. I believe this is the 7-inch model. I got it mainly so I can receive my the local TV stations I get on the antenna like on the go. It's a nice little portable TV. It's I'd say its reception is pretty good. It comes with different antennas. All of them are coax, but yeah, definitely a nice little portable TV. If you want to actually go somewhere, you can actually use this. And there's actually audio in and out capabilities on here, and there's also an HDMI in-port here, and a USB charger over there. I still have yet to figure out what I want to use this for, but since TVs typically tend to draw a lot more power than radios do, I usually try to avoid having this thing on 24/7. So there's that. Now this radio right here, this Angine HDR14. This is an HD radio that I got, I want to say a few years ago. I don't remember the exact date. So the reason I got this is because I already had my Spark SHD TX2, which I'll get into in a little bit, and I wanted to have like another HD radio because some of my locals actually use HD alerting. I don't know if they still use it now. I haven't been able to really go after any of the Connecticut monthlies because I've been working a job, so it's definitely put a huge damper on my EAS hobby / career, but can't really say much because I do not want to have my balls busted for complaining about something that I need to do. So yeah, right now this is monitoring WBLI, and that's going into my EasyCast. And I should mention my EasyCast is monitoring WMNR, WSHU, WBLI, and WALK. And so it pretty much covers all of Connecticut, essentially, and Long Island, which is pretty much the KTR media coverage area. And by KTR media, I'm talking about the index. Obviously, my weather radio coverage is a lot more than that. I'm trying to expand it more, but I probably need a lot more cables for my equipment. Anyways, the HDR14, it's a great radio. It's great on FM. AM is also okay. Not really too crazy about it on the AM side, but FM is great. Battery life is also great. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's a lot more accessible than the Spark SHD TX2, or even the other Spark that I had, which is now broken. But I will get to that later. Next is my Uniden BCT8 scanner. So this is actually hooked into my Sage over here, and it's monitoring WXJ42. It's definitely an interesting little scanner. I actually did convert this to receive some of the digital frequencies. It's not P25 compatible like my other scanner, which I'll get into later. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting little scanner. Pick one up if you want it. It's got traffic. I think it's got traffic monitoring on here. It's got like 250 presets. Yeah, it's a nice little scanner. The backlight is always on, which unfortunately I cannot change. And it's got a little NASCAR branding on there too. Personally, I don't really mind it, but I'm not too crazy about it either. Yeah, I got this May 14th, 2022, so it was relatively recent. After that, there's my Radio Shack Pro 136 scanner. This was actually gifted to me by Shadowfrost88. And the reason I wanted this scanner, or at least was looking at it, was because it's a Radio Shack scanner that has, I guess, Uniden firmware on it. It shares firmware with some of the other other Unidens that were out there at the time. And this also has same activation. The only thing is, the siren on it is constant, so I would not recommend putting this in alert mode, especially if you are using it as not a monitor. Especially if you're not using it as a monitor. I said that weird. Reception is decent. I'm obviously not using the factory antenna, but yeah, this is monitoring WXM80 and is also being fed into my Sage. I did have to do a little bit of modifications to my scanners so I can set them here and have them receive the no other radio channels that I monitor. Now, if it was one of those things where I was in a decently populated area with a really strong receiving station, I would consider using my EasyCast, but considering how my local stations have marine zones, EasyCasts can't really decode marine warnings. Sages can. So, there's that. Now we move on to the radios that, well, at least more of the radios that aren't hooked into my NDAC. And this is my 74200 version 8. I got this at the start of 2022. And the reason I got this, I had another 74200, it was a version 4, but a part of the motherboard actually broke. So, like, if this wasn't plugged in a certain way, the radio would not power on. I tried fixing it with an enthusiast whose name will not be mentioned, and let's just say the repairs did not go as well, because he saw the board damage well before I did. And no, he didn't break it, it was already giving me power issues before that, so yeah, it's not one of those things where he broke it and I just told him not to bother about replacing it. But yeah, so there's that. The 74200s are relatively decent. Only thing is, the reception is a bit iffy.
The current time is 2:32.
Reception is a bit iffy, especially if you're in another room surrounded by electrical equipment like this, but then again, that's kind of to be expected. The button beeps do get really annoying, especially because you can't turn them off. And the menu setup, it's let's just say it is bothersome to say the least. Next we have the $5 519. So I got this off of another enthusiast back in 2019, and the reason for that is because certain models of the 519, like this one, some of them actually go off after the first header, and that's actually the 519 I originally wanted, because I don't know what it is, but first header 519s are always like, they're like a sight for sore eyes for me, because especially when you pair them with other radios going off on the first header, it's just, it sounds interesting to me, to be honest. But yeah, reception is okay. Antenna, yeah, you can kind of see where that's going. This one seems to be a little bit better at, like, staying up. But, yeah, I really gotta find, like, I don't know what it is with some of these radios that have BNC connector antennas, or even radios that just, like, have antenna arthritis like that. It's just, like, after a while they start, like, falling over randomly, and it's just a pain in the neck. I tried doing aftermarket antennas, but that does not really help. Sometimes it just makes the problem worse. This has AM and FM on it. It's got auxiliary capabilities, It's got the ability to monitor Skywarn. Other than that, it's a really great radio, and I recommend getting it if you can find one for cheap. I don't think you'll find one for $5, but I think you could probably find one for maybe like, well, the ideal price would be maybe like 40 or 50 bucks. That's my ideal price. Next over here we have the Radio Shack 12382.
Report from 23 nautical miles south of London.
So this particular one was made in September of 2008. I know some Radio Shacks, like if you get a model that was made in a certain year, they typically tend to have less problems. But I've honestly had relatively good luck with some Radio Shacks. The only real issue I had was my first 521, which had the tuner die and the button stopped working. I don't remember what year it was made, but I do know that was the issue that it had. I got it because the 382 has been a radio of interest of mine for a while. And quite honestly, I'm a little bit sad that this one has a wonky tuner, but these two radios both have wonky tuners, and they both have activated with relatively no issues. The 519 has been like, bam, bam, like almost consistent. This one you have to kind of put it in just the right spot before it works. But I've had relatively good luck with the 382. I'm hoping it doesn't die on me, but I guess only time will tell. Next we have the Midland WR400. I know it says version 2. There's no specific versions, but this is like one of the first major revisions of the 400.
Only for the area waters at New Haven Harbor.
So this one I got in 2020. I think I got it I got it January 30th, 2020. So the reason I got this, so most of the 400s, at least when they first came out, they all had like similar, they all had like the basic WR120, WR100, WR300 alert table, and with the National Weather Service and FCC implementing new codes like Storm Surge Watch, Storm Surge Warning, you would think that Midland would have implemented a create alerts feature like they did with the 300s, but they did not. So the only way to get a 400 that has the ability to read the new alerts is to get another 400. And considering how Midland has the 400 as their flagship model, I think it's like retailing for $70. You can see how it's not exactly the most cost-effective solution. But other than that, reception is just great.
East wind 5 to 10 miles per hour, becoming south in the afternoon.
Yeah, reception in here isn't exactly, well, any radio that's in here is bound to have like some sort of reception issue because, that. The FM, another reason why I actually got this is because the original models of the 400, for whatever reason, didn't include 107.5, 107.7, and 107.9. And for those of you that are in the Connecticut operational area, 107.9 actually has WEBE, and the original 400s cannot get 107.9 at all. So, yeah, that was another reason why I got this, because this can actually get 107.9 compared to the other 400. Well, at least the original 400. But yeah, reception on it is decent. It's definitely a great radio if you have the money. Definitely not something I would recommend starting out with, but I guess everyone has their own choices. Next, we have the Midland WR120, the at least the latest rendition of it.
With a 50% chance of showers.
I also modified this to have a green backlight because, well, I mean, you gotta be honest. Some radios look really good with some sort of modification on it. Definitely not something I would recommend beginners to do, but definitely something I'd recommend if you want to give your radio a more personal touch. And if you're wondering what that 200:229 sticker is, that's actually, I have a theory that might correspond to the version of the firmware that the radio is running, but that's the topic for another video. This one I got for a relatively cheap price on eBay, and the reason I got this is because I actually learned that certain models of the 120 actually included some of the newer codes that my other 120s didn't. Reception on it is good, like every other 120. The power cord on this is actually a little bit more space saving from what I saw. And from what I saw, I mean the power brick is literally like basically take an iPhone charger and you basically have a Midland cord. Obviously Apple chargers are different depending on the kind of charger you get, but I digress. Definitely a great starter radio. I actually started off with a 120. I'll actually show that later. But this 120, the newer 120s are definitely a step up compared to the other models. At least the other versions of the 120. I'll do a whole comparison on that later. Now up here we have the Recom R1650A.
Visibility less than 1 nautical mile.
So the Recom 1650A, I think I got this in 2018. I had to do a little bit of bargaining with my with the seller, but yeah, this is a relatively rare radio, as you can kind of see. I'll try and get a better look here for you. You can see it has a statement light in green as opposed to the yellow advisory / statement light that they normally have. And the setup is a little bit different. AM/FM is okay. I wouldn't use it, but the one thing I should mention, especially with some of these older radios here, be careful with how you plug it in with regards to like radio placement, because some radios actually cause interference with others. I'll get into that in a little bit. I might even make a whole separate video on that if I'm honest, considering how many interference issues I've had. But that radio is definitely okay. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's not the worst. Reception is decent. Speaker quality is okay. The one flaw that this has, though, and I believe this was revised with some later versions, but there is no option to adjust the siren level on this. Some Recoms of that generation, like the 1650 and 1630 A and Bs, they have the high-low switch on the back. This one is not one of those models. So that is something to consider. The high-low models are like really sought after for some reason, even though the newer Recoms have adjustable siren volumes anyway. But yeah, that one is definitely okay, to say the least. Now this is the Sharecom WRP-50.
Southeast winds at 9 knots were reported. The air temperature.
So the Sharecoms, these are definitely interesting finds, if I'm honest. Sharecom is not really a company that you really hear about that often, but they were like they have certain models that are just like the freaking GOAT. The WRP-50 is definitely more of a baseline, just starting to get into that brand type of radio. There is one radio that I'm still trying to find, and it's the WRP-500. Because that, if you've seen the YouTube videos on it, you'll know why I want it that badly. So, if anyone has that model, please hook me up, because I really want one. Reception on this is great. I'm getting WXJ42 crystal clear in here.
Lower 50s. Southeast winds.
This is even getting KWO35 in here, and that's a station I can hardly get in here, even with some of my other radios.
Southeast. Noon. Chance of rain 7.
Obviously, the placement of the radio is going to determine the reception, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting radio. If you can find one, I think there was an Amazon listing for this for like $80, because that's actually where I got this. It was like new old stock on Amazon for like $80, and it took a little while to ship, but I think it shipped out of Rochester, New York. Definitely an interesting radio. Definitely try and grab one. Just be prepared financially, because it is definitely not cheap. Kind of like this. As I go into the 301 that I got for my birthday back in 2020, more specifically, I got this on, if I can find, yeah, March 20th of 2020. I actually came across this listing on eBay, and my dad was actually placing bids on this because I think you and I both know damn well that I do not have that WR301s are not exactly cheap, especially when you put them on auction. So my dad wound up paying like $180 for this, and the reason I know that is because I actually saw the auction going on. Other people tried getting this for me as a birthday present, and my dad was actually the winner of this, and he let me have it. Originally what was going to happen was he was going to pay $80 and I covered the difference, but you know, birthday gifts, they have their perks. It's essentially just a WR300 version 5 with a camouflage shell on it. And if you're wondering why I have these stickers on here, this is because if I ever go on vacation, I don't want none of y'all trying to take my radios. But yeah, so it's essentially a 300 it's a 300 V5 inside of a camouflage shell. This is actually still the stock internals. I've actually heard of people losing 301s and V5 300s because certain models have, like, I guess, worse parts. But this one has been working with no flaws, knock on wood. The only issues I've really had is, like, I don't know what it is, but like the 301s are like extremely picky when it comes to decoding stuff. So you kind of got to be like really, really particular with how the reception is, and I am a reception freak. Definitely get these if you can, because they are rare, and every design of the 301 is different. Like, no 301 is the same. And yeah, needless to say, it's a great radio to look at. Performance wise, it's okay. Could be a little bit better, but then again, I've seen people swap 300 deluxe internals into these, and it boosts the performance by like 10-15 times. But yeah, if you can find one with the stock internals that still works, definitely hold on to it. And obviously, if the stock internals die, just get a V5 Deluxe 300 and swap the internals into there. Now, another radio that was more expensive for me was this. This is my Uniden Home Patrol 2 scanner. I got this used on Amazon, I want to say for like about $300-400. And the reason I got this is because it's touchscreen for one. And as you'll probably see, assuming anything loads.
904.
So,
Roger, sure, responding. It's going to be for a 67-year-old male. Fall. Call came in from the medical alarm company. They reported that he is a large gentleman and he might need assistance.
alright, so I'm just going to turn this down. But yeah, as you can probably see, this is a digital scanner. It has P25 phase 1 and 2 compatibility. And like I said, it's touchscreen. And there's obviously no alerts stored on here as of now, but these actually have cool little graphics that show up whenever it receives an alert. I'll have to double check and see what each individual graphic is. I might even do a video on it if I'm honest. But yeah, it's and it even records the alerts that it receives and saves it until the alert expires. So that is definitely something useful to have, especially if you're out of the house and let's just say in my case, an accidental tsunami warning was issued and you missed it because you didn't expect it to happen, and I've had that happen to me twice. This would be really useful because it'll actually save the alert until it reaches its purge time. Obviously the touchscreen is a huge bonus, and since it's one of those things where it has a detachable antenna, You can actually swap on any antenna. I actually took this antenna from my broken Vector TV radio, which I'll get into later. And I actually put it on this little BNC adapter and attached it to the radio. It's definitely intuitive, and it also comes with this little stand here if you wanted to like have it on the desk or something. So there's that as well. The reason I have it up on the wall is because I don't know why, but it just looks cooler to me. I wanted to buy this because I've been dying to get a home patrol for a while, and yeah, about $400 later, this exists. Anyways, next radio over here is the Eton Zone Guard.
The wind was variable at 6 miles an hour.
So the reason I got this, I actually wanted this from the very start of collecting, but I got the Zone Guard Plus thinking that it'd just be this but bigger. Boy, was I f***ing wrong. The siren on the Zone Guard Plus is much more annoying, but I'll get to I'll talk about that later. Reception on this is iffy. I should mention that there are actually certain revisions of the Zone Guard that I kind of want to get. Like this one has just the static extend and retract antenna. Some Zone Guards actually have the tilt and telescoping antenna, which I'm kind of jealous about. The buttons, as you can see, they have definitely seen better days. And some of them are actually, and the buttons are actually starting to give out on this. So that is something to be wary of if you ever get a Zone Guard. Be just prepared in case the buttons start like acting weird, like double clicks, not unresponsive. Sometimes, like if I press and hold the alert on off button, it'll actually turn on the broadcast. I don't know why it does it, but yeah, this also has AM and FM. Not really too crazy about it, but if you want to get it, go right ahead. I personally wouldn't recommend it because over time the buttons will wear out. But the siren on this is good. I'll give it that. Another radio that I have here is the Uniden BC370 CRS.
Quarter mile or less at times. 10 miles per hour.
So, like the BC345 CRS, this is analog only. But this actually has same decoding on not just weather band, but also AM and FM, and this will be useful if I ever get a state relay network frequency within reach. This actually can decode same headers on the scanner as well. And just to show you that I'm not capping. So right now, FM, weather, and now it's looking for alerts on what would be the Connecticut State Relay Network frequency. But yeah, I usually leave this on FM because the likelihood of getting alerts on FM is much more likely compared to getting alerts on a state relay channel that you can't even get from here. Reception is good. You can swap on aftermarket antennas if you want, but just like I said, be careful because aftermarket antennas typically they might not exactly hold up well. Yeah, this was another radio this is another scanner that I got. Definitely recommended, but like just be careful because chances are you might actually be hurting your wallet. Next radio here, I don't really use this as often, but do not tell me this thing is actually dead. Oh my god, this is actually dead. This is the Kaito KA900. I got this because I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's definitely not a radio I would recommend for daily use because this is only 1050 hertz activated, but some notable features on here: it has Bluetooth, it's got shortwave, it's got AM and FM and weather band. This also has MP3 recording like the Kaito KA110, which I'll get into later. And this also has a text reader, which, by the way, to whoever thinks that the text reader is useless, it can be useless at times, but you just got to make sure that you're actually saving files with the right formatting, because the that reviewed this radio was thinking like, oh, if you put any text file on there, it'll read it perfectly. Yeah, no. This only reads like standard web safe fonts. This isn't gonna actually might not even be web safe, like system safe fonts if that even exists. Yeah, you can't go around putting third party fonts onto an SD card expecting this to read it just fine. Like if you put up like a standard notepad text file, save it onto a micro SD card, and then insert it in here, chances are it'll read a plain text file a lot easier than reading a text file with third-party fonts talking about how great Edgar Allan Poe is. So, yeah, that's something to just keep in mind. I haven't used the text reader as frequently. I haven't even used this radio as frequently, but it's definitely an expensive purchase, but definitely I'd say it's worth the money. Yeah, I think I got this in the spring of 2022, because I brought this down to North Carolina to be featured in radio reviews. But yeah, and then that episode happened. Anyways, next over here, I got this. This is the Spark SHD TX2. I got this in October, I want to say, of 2018. I'm gonna turn that down. Let's see.
WCBS News Time 2:58.
Yeah, so this was like the king of DXing for like a good few years. Like, people actually favored this over the Sanji and CL100 and Motorola MWR839, and those were considered the kings of DXing for quite some time. So, only downside is these are really rare, and the chances of finding them are like slim to none. So, that's something to really consider if you're looking to buy these. Yeah, the reception is great. The antenna could be a little bit better, but my boy Jake M, he actually did a video on how to modify the Spark to basically put on any antenna that you want. If I can remember to do this like after editing, I'll leave the link to that tutorial in the description. But yeah, it's a great radio. AM reception is killer. FM reception is great. It could be better with a bigger antenna, but what can you really do? It's a portable radio. It's designed to like be carried, not like sit on a desk. Which unfortunately, my Spark SHD TX2, my ITR2 BT that used to be over here is actually in the closet. I'll explain that later. But yeah, definitely get, if you see one of these pop up on eBay or something, definitely get it. Now, as far as, I think there's a radio in here somewhere. Yeah, this is the J-Win JXM 133. I haven't been using this in any of my videos recently because this did not come with a factory power cord. And whenever I plug this in using the power cord that I got, the reception on this is just dies, and it affects the other radios too. So I left this in here. I'll probably find, if I ever do wind up getting my own place, I might just I might use a different room entirely if I'm able to. Oh no, this other stuff in here, this isn't like radio stuff. It's actually stuff for these monitors here, which, as you can see, I have changed my setup quite a bit. I will get into that in a separate video. Alright, so now with that out of the way, I'm going to take care of the radios in my bedroom where I sleep. Alright, so we are now in my room. So we got, I'm going to make sure this door is closed all the way. So we got the Oregon Scientific WR606 LL Bean version. I actually got this from another enthusiast as a Christmas gift in 2020, I want to say. Yeah, Christmas Eve 2020 was when I got this. This was a radio I've been looking for a while, because, I mean, you gotta admit, this blue looks great on this radio. I've seen the black and gray versions of this. I don't know, man. I just don't like the black and gray variant. It just, like, from what I remember, this blue part here was black, and then the screen was like silver or gray or something. I just don't like the way that looks. But this looks 1,000 times better. Reception, yeah. You can see why I have an external antenna plugged in. The factory antenna is just abysmal.
To 15 knots with gusts up to 20.
But yeah, this definitely get an external antenna if you decide to get even the regular version of this, because this factory antenna will not cut it, dude. It just will not. Now this I believe is no, this is not my V15. This is my EH55. I got this, I want to say in 2019 or 2020.
Areas of fog.
So the reason I got the EH, I was under the impression that the EH55s were actually different. And by that, I mean, like, internally with the firmware. Because I was told, oh, hey, these can have up to 80 codes. And, 80 FIPS codes or same event codes or whatever. I think it was like 80 event codes. And I thought that meant adding the new codes as well. And, funny story, that did not happen. So, yeah, I was essentially lied to by Midland. And now I have a third HH. But then again, that's nothing compared to Antonio's 10 or 11 HHs. But, yeah, so the EH is essentially just like the HH VP2s, except it doesn't come with a charging cradle. I actually got a charging cradle from another enthusiast because, yeah, standing this up with just the power cord, it is not safe. Like, I mean, I don't mean safe as in, like, it'll overvolt the radio. I mean not safe as in it'll literally fall flat on its f***ing face if you even touch it. So, yeah, I got the charging cradle because it's a lot more stable. Next over here, I actually got this radio pretty recently. It's the Radio Shack 12256. I actually got this back in February.
Waves 1 foot or less.
And the reason I got it...
Sunday, 3:03 p.m.
The talking clock. That is like the sole reason I got this radio. The talking clock is just amazing. Reception,
For tonight.
The fact that this doesn't really have an external antenna jack kind of kills it, but I guess there are other solutions. Yeah, this is 1050 hertz only, which I guess is kind of okay, but if you like talking clocks and that's your sort of gig, definitely get one of these, because you'll fulfill your inner talking clock obsession and have a way to be alerted during severe weather. All right, so now that that's done, like I said, pardon the sniffling and whatnot. My allergies are absolutely killing me. Over here we got the Running Snail MD319 version 9.
Here is the tide information. It's Sandy Hook. High tide is at 5:51 p.m.
I've heard people talking about it, and little did I know that this thing actually crashes on certain alerts. So I literally got this just for the memes. Like, this thing will actually crash on certain alerts. And by that, the time will change, the date will change, the expiration time will just change to something completely goofy. Sometimes the radio will even lock up entirely if the headers are like just that long. I don't really notice it as much with shorter alert tones with maybe 1 or 2 county codes, but once you start factoring in longer headers, that's when this thing just completely goes to shit. And the same thing can be said for this, which I got for... Actually, this was the Running Snail that I paid for. This one I got from Running Snail as part of a recall campaign or something. And this is the version 17, so you'd think that maybe after 8 revisions of this thing that they'd finally get it right. Well, long story short, they somehow made it a lot worse. The one thing that they did fix was this one would have the alarm turned on by default. This one fixed that. Other than that, the reception is still kind of garbage, though they did supply a lot of external antennas with the radio from the factory, so that I'll give them props for. That and also these strobe lights, which, by the way, the reason for the tape on them, let's just say that I wanted to try and change the color of the little strobe light cover, but that just did not wind up working, because I tried using some sort of solution to get rid of the paint, and my guess is that there's probably a lot more that went into designing these strobes, but because of that, the tabs for the strobes actually were weakened, and I couldn't snap them back into place. So, yeah, there's that. These two both activate on the third header. Sometimes they activate on the end of message headers, which, yeah, that's a problem. And the V17's crashing is somehow worse than the V9's. So, yeah, definitely stay away from these two. And these two models right here are the ones that I'd recommend. This one is the running snail version 20.
Advisory in effect until 11 a.m.
So I got the V9 in June of 2020. I got the V17 in October 2020. I want to say I got the V20 in early 2021. The V20, that was when Running Snail was like, okay, we got this down pat. Now let's sell the patents to other companies, because the V20, this actually fixed a lot of the issues that the V17 and V9 had, and this actually activates on the second header compared to those two. And, yeah, as you can see here, there's AM and FM. Oh, what the fuck? I've never seen that happen, but, yeah, I don't really use the AM and FM as much on these, but I've heard they're somewhat good at DXing, but I don't really use them for that. Now, over here is the Jivaust. I don't know how to say it, but this is the public domain 319. As you can see, they changed quite a bit. So speaker quality on this is a little bit degraded compared to these, in my opinion. The buttons actually feel different. There's no AM and FM. It's actually replaced with set code and channel. This actually has a display mode as well, which is perfect if you have people that complain about radios 24/7. And this also has functional alert blocking, which these three did not. And by that I mean you could actually disable EANs, TORs, basically stuff that you can't disable on these, you were able to disable. But this one actually fixed it. So yeah, there's that. Out of all of these two are the ones I'd recommend. If you're looking for AM and FM, get the Running Snail if you can find one on eBay. But if you don't really care about AM and FM, you just want an MD319 in general, get this one. There's links to them on Amazon. I think they're like 40 or 50 bucks. But yeah, this one I paid for. These two I got for free. This one I paid for. Next, we have the Eton Elite Traveler. I think the batteries on this are dead, so I'll have to... Yeah, the batteries on this are dead. I'll have to charge it at some point. But, yeah, this is a FM, AM, long wave, short wave radio that I got. It comes with this nice little case. I put this little shift sticker on there, and I cut the corner of it so this way it wouldn't really interfere with the power button. This also has world time as well in case you want to travel somewhere. Yeah, I'm gonna replace the batteries on these. This doesn't have weather band, which kind of sucks, but I mean, if you're traveling, I think the only places that really have weather radio capabilities are the United States, Mexico, Canada, some of the U.S. outlying islands, and probably some other stuff too. I'll have to double check. I got this in 2020 as well. Now this, the Vector VEC 438. 4:22 a.m. Monday. I got this, I want to say in 2021 or 2022, but I got this because this has like a really nostalgic alert tone to it. It's a little handheld that has FM on it. There's not that many handhelds that have good AM/FM receiving on it. This one just has FM. And this is one of those weird radios that, like, it was made after the FCC updated the alert table, but this one still has like the old warning watch statement alert table on it. And this also has the Weather Channel branding on it, back when the Weather Channel was actually good. But personally, I wouldn't recommend this. The antenna on this is kind of jank. I mean, if you want one, go right ahead. I'm not stopping you. Now, this radio here is the WR300 version 8.
In upper level disturbance tracking south and east of the region will bring clouds and a few showers to the region this morning.
So, this I got off of Midland's website in 2020. I got this because I've been hearing a lot of great things about the V8. I didn't even know there was a version 8 until like 2020, like 2019 or 2020. I always thought it was just like one of those things with the WR100 version 6. Like there isn't really a version 6 WR100, but there is a version 8 300, so I guess that kind of counts. The only downside to this, like the reception on this is like 10 times better compared to the V5s and even the V1s, but the only downside is there's input lag for the menu. You can see I'm like spamming the up and down buttons, and it's only registering like one input at a time, so that really hinders the setup process on this. As far as alerts go, this has some of the newer alerts on there. I had to add snow squall warning and blue alert onto here. The custom alerts feature is a little bit bugged from what I noticed, but as long as it can receive the snow squall warnings and blue alerts with relatively no issue, then I don't really mind it. I can't remember if it's actually fixed the bug where with custom alerts on the past 300s, it would activate with the advisory siren and light. Not sure if it fixed that. I'll have to self-activate it to be sure, but I don't think it has that issue anymore. But definitely get these. 300s have been around for quite a long time. This is actually, I think, one of Midland's oldest models that's still being made today. And I would honestly recommend these like 100%. This is actually the radio that I wanted to start off my collection with. Obviously, with it being 2015, it would have been a version 5, but with this, I definitely recommend it. So this is the 74250C, and this label is peaking a bit. I'm going to try and force that back into place. But yeah, the 74250C. It's an interesting little handheld, definitely fragile. I've had a 74250 fall on me face first, and it actually busted the speaker, at least the contacts for the speaker. So I had to shell swap this like multiple times just to get the speaker working again. Reception on it is meh, but taking this apart is a bitch, as you can see by this. I don't know why Midland had that like covering the seal on that. That's just poor design, if I'm honest. But the siren on it is interesting. It sounds like an old telephone, if I'm honest. Yeah, reception is meh. Wouldn't exactly say it's the best, but definitely grab a 74250 if you're able to. Next over here is the OG Midland ER10 VP.
Areas of fog. Less than 1 nautical mile.
And the way you can tell this is an original model, pressing and holding the weather button, it just triggers the weather alert on it. There were later revisions of the ER10 that fixed that, but that actually, in turn, you get the ER50 siren, which is like this high-pitched dog whistle, whereas this is actually one of the high-low models. I was actually really lucky because I got this towards the start of 2022 or 2021, and I actually got a model that was made in April of 2020 from Amazon. So that meant I got the high-low siren, whereas people that would buy a new ER10 would get the high-pitched squealing siren, which is what this radio, the ER50, has. I actually got this. Actually, I got this one back when Midland said that this was exclusive to Walmart. That's how long ago I got it. And it's a nice little handheld. It's
5 to 10 knots in the afternoon. Seas 1 foot or less.
This has the I think this has the high-low. Not high-low. No. It has the high-pitched siren that Midland uses now on all their ER radios, but not exactly too crazy about that siren in particular. But The reception on it is great. I actually got KEC 73 with this radio, and yeah, it's great DXing, but you just gotta overcome that white noise suppression feature that it has. This in 2020 is the Accuray 8560 RX.
Visibility less than 1 nautical mile. From Monday.
So the reason I got this, I mean, first and foremost, it's a flashlight. It's also like incredibly rare. I don't know how rare specifically it is, but it is definitely one of the rarer models. And unfortunately, with that, the parts for it become rare because the rechargeable battery pack on that is like completely dead. I cannot find a rechargeable battery for this thing for the life of me. So if y'all know of a place where I can get one, please let me know, because I hate the fact that I have to rely on using rechargeables or even alkaline batteries just to keep this going when it's not plugged in. So there's that. Reception is decent. The flashlight isn't really that bright, and it takes a weird power supply too. Like this takes like 4.5 volts or something, and like I actually almost overvolted this thing using a PSP cord, but using this like generic barrelhead to USB cable, this is working just fine. So yeah, definitely be cautious when you're using power cords for this radio. So there's that. Then over there is my Uniden BC125 AT scanner. A lot of people actually recommended this for a good first handheld scanner. I wanted to get the BCD 325P2 handheld scanner because essentially that scanner is just the 125 AT but with SAME and Phase 25 compatibility. But only difference is this was like about $100 on Amazon, whereas the 325P2 was a lot more than that.
51 p.m. Sunday and 7:18 a.m. Monday. Low tide is at 1:04 p.m. Sunday and 1:33 a.m. Monday.
Definitely a great scanner, especially a great portable scanner. There are cheaper models out there, but this one I personally like because it's a little bit more advanced, and the display is just a lot nicer in all honesty. And it has weather alert, 1050 hertz detection, and is supposedly really great at DXing. I actually got the Connecticut State Relay Network on this. Definitely a great little handheld scanner to have. Now, up here, this is the Midland ER210. As you can see, it is modified. A good buddy of mine, BenjiCat33, or Mitchell, he actually modified this for me. I'm going to bring this into a darker light here. You can't really see it that well on here, but this backlight is actually purple, and the charging light is yellow. The reason why I wanted those colors specifically is if you look at my profile picture at the time of this video, my Splatoon persona is actually has red and yellow hair, hence the red body and the yellow light. It actually has purple. This has a purple backlight, like how my Inksona has purple spots on her hair. So there's that. Now this is the Midland ER310. Unfortunately, it has suffered some damage. Fell head first onto concrete, and it cracked the solar panel, which I'm kind of pissed about. But yeah, this is a great radio. I got this in 2022. It's a great DXing radio. I actually got a Weather Radio Canada station on this just from eSkip, and it's just a great radio to bring with you whenever you're on vacation. I modified the charging light, and I even have like my own little air tag for it. Reception on this, like I said, is great. Reception on this is okay. Not as good as the 310, but it's okay. Definitely get a 310 though if you're looking for one. It's a great radio. Now for here, we have the Midland WR300 version 1.
Here is the official National Weather Service.
I got this in April of 2018. It was, and the reason I got it, well, V1 300s are rare. And I'll be honest, this was back when I was in my green statement light radio craze, and this was when people were busting my chops about what rare radios everyone has. Definitely a great radio. This is definitely one of Midland's older ones, as you can definitely see. Even today, it looks kind of brand new. There is some scuffs on here, but that's probably just because I've been traveling from place to place with this radio, so there's that. This radio here, the Black Alert Works EAR-10.
Lows in the upper 40s. Southwest winds.
I got this in January of 2015, and I modified the backlight so it's green. And as you can kind of see here, as it's starting to fall, I'm gonna fix that. I actually hooked up my Midland 18 STR to this. I'm gonna do a quick siren test. I say quick siren test, but I'm gonna be testing the strobe. Brief flashing white lights warning. Now I believe if this radio goes off for higher priority alerts when it's in display mode, this should activate. This should be flashing. I'll have to see it in an overnight event, but the chances of that happening are slim. Anyways, definitely the AlertWorks EAR-10s are definitely a great radio to get. I personally would recommend the black ones over the white ones because the white ones have a little bit degraded speaker quality compared to this, but most AlertWorks radios in general typically have a subpar speaker quality. Now this is the WX268 from First Alert.
West winds 15 to 25 knots.
So this is actually my second one. My first one I got in May of 2018. That is now with one of my friends, friends. Because from what I heard, he was going to try and print a 3D shell for this, like a new shell for this. Because if y'all saw some of the older WX268s, they would just be like completely yellowed. And because of that yellowing, the entire radio in itself was just completely fragile and everything was just falling apart.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No.
So yeah, that thing was just like on its last legs. Like I am damn near surprised that thing even lasted as long as it did. But yeah, let's just say that the 268s, when they're in relatively pristine condition like this, they're perfect. This one unfortunately lost the antenna holder for here, but other than that, it's perfect. I'd recommend getting these, but just be careful because a lot of rare radios have been gouged for like really high prices, and it just completely ruins the market for them. One of the reasons I got this radio is because this has AM or FM decoding in addition to weather band decoding, and the way it scrolls alerts too. If I do a little test here, you can see here it says it pretty much does like an index style scroll, and that's one of the main reasons I got this. The scroll on this is definitely a lot more detailed. I mean, you gotta admit, the radio itself is pretty cool. The screen is tilting adjustable. You can mount this on the wall if you really wanted to. But yeah, definitely get this if it's not too expensive for you. Yeah, like I said, just be careful when you're using it because if you get one that's like really sun bleached, it could like crack at any moment. The next radio I got this on Christmas of 2017. It's the Radio Shack 12262.
Visibility 1 nautical mile or less.
This I actually got from a family friend of mine. He actually had 2 radios, and this one he wasn't using. And he was willing to offer it to me like pretty much for free as a Christmas gift, and I immediately took it up because I am a sucker for free radios. But yeah, 262s are relatively good. This one hasn't really given me much issues aside from activating. This, I think, was just from me using a wipe to clean off the screen. I really gotta see if there's like a way to fix this because those dead pixels, it's kind of bothering me. I've thought about modifying this, but I don't know what I'd want to modify it to. And it's like what kind of backlight do I want? How do I want the lights to look? It's And plus 262s are known for like giving out, so like I don't want to have this modified and the next thing I know it completely craps the bed, so there's that. Now radios over here. Oh, actually I should mention 262 reception is okay. Not the best, but it's not the worst. Now over here we got the Oregon Scientific WR608.
XM80 broadcasts on a frequency.
I got this off of Storm Chaser 668 along with 2 other radios that I got from him and I unfortunately no longer have because they broke. One of the radios was a red Eton SoulLink FR370. It had the American Red Cross badging on it. That one, the screen broke and then something else broke. I don't know what it was. And the other one was a high-pitched version of the WX150 that activated on the second header. It was like a really high-pitched version too. And it was a rare model too, and it broke because I tried modifying it and it did not turn out well. So, yeah, I'm kind of sad about that. But the 608 is like the last radio that I got from him that I still have working to this day. It's interesting radio. Wouldn't exactly say it's the best, but definitely grab one of these if you can, because they are definitely interesting. Next over here is the Oregon Scientific WRB603. I got this. I got this like right as 2020 started. Like literally like January 1st, 2020 or December 31st, 2019. I have to look back at the date in the spreadsheet, but this I got in 2019, 2020. The battery life on this is kind of garbage, but I could probably find a newer chargeable battery somewhere. Reception is okay, but these 2 radios actually do not have a siren, just like the 606, which personally I'm okay with. But yeah, definitely get this if you want. Hopefully you'll find like a better battery for it. But yeah. Now this right here, the Eton ESP2100, I got this from the enthusiast who shall remain nameless. I got this as part of a trade. I think I sold my TFT to him for 20 bucks. And I got this and the cash in return. And personally, the ESP2100, this one for me has been relatively great. I've heard people had like lots of issues with theirs, like the screen would die, the parts would break or something. This one has actually been working relatively fine. The only thing that came off was this, but personally I don't really mind it. But yeah. So, the ESP2100, oh, one thing I should note. This radio, the J-Win, and the Maxon WX80, which I'll get into later, they all take center negative power supplies. So if you're trying to power this on with a cord and it's not working, check the polarity reading on the side of the radio or the little power plug like this one has. You can see DC 6 volts, center negative. So center negative power supplies are what'll power this thing. So there's that. This right here is the Midland WR300 version 5 Deluxe.
And for Tuesday, southwest wind.
So I actually got this, my dad actually got this on Amazon for, I want to say 60 or 70 bucks. I'll have to look back at the listing. But yeah, I got back in 2015. This was the radio that I originally wanted to start out my collection with. But unfortunately, Walmart did not carry, and unfortunately, they still do not carry a WR300. They had the 120s, and at the time, I think they had the ER200s or the ER210s, one of the two. Now they just have the 120 and that G-Storm radio, which I was tempted to buy yesterday, but I decided against it. V5s definitely. So the VA300s are definitely great. The V5 300s are like they're better but worse, because like they're worse because certain V5s have the risk of going dead. This is the deluxe model, so it should not have that issue. And it's worse because it doesn't have all the new alerts like the V8 does, but you can just use the custom alerts feature on that to add them in. So there's that. Definitely get a 300 V5 Deluxe or V8, one of the two. Next, this is one of my holy grails, the Midland Black and Silver WR100 version 1. Oh, come on. I'll have to find an external antenna for this, but yeah. So this I got in April 2015. I actually found this while I was in Las Vegas at the Monster Jam World Finals, if you can believe that. So I got this. I was thrilled to be getting a black and silver. I still am. Having like I'm still really happy having the knowledge that I have one of the holy grails of weather radio collecting. Because the black and silvers, they may look generic and bland on the outside, but once you really start to appreciate, like once you start learning more about the radios, you can kind of see why the black and silver is like really sought after. And that's why I have two. This one, I don't remember how much it was. The listing was from 2015, and unfortunately, the only thing I really remember from the V1 black and silvers is they're sought after, and the reception is kind of jank unless you have an external antenna. But this, the V2, actually won in a raffle hosted by another enthusiast who I will not mention. And I think after that raffle, I think I had to pay like $30 or $40. And just a little bit of tea. He's actually been trying to get this back, and like, motherfucker, no, I paid for it. It's mine. But yeah, the V2, you can see a little bit of a difference here. This has a more teal backlight. This one is more blue.
Throughout the area.
Reception on this is obviously a lot better. Oh, and I should mention the weather snooze buttons on these are normally silver. I swapped them over to black from some of my dead WR100s because I don't know about you guys, but the black weather snooze button with the back black round and black buttons, it looks a lot better and cleaner if I'm honest. Definitely get, if you ever find a black and silver, be prepared. These have also been victims of scalping and price gouging like all the other rare radios. But if you ever do find one, get it. So there's that with the black and silvers. This right here is another WR300 version 5.
Wind was southeast.
This is the regular V5, as you can kind of see by the text on the bottom. I actually got this from Sincerely WX in 2022, and honestly, getting this it kind of felt like part of the little kid inside me that wanted to start off with a 300 was rejuvenated, because having a WR300 V5 with this kind of aesthetic to it, I don't know what it is, but it feels like it kind of helps me realize more that I've been a long-time enthusiast, and I still am. I'm planning on recording weather radios and making EAS content till the day I die, or completely lose motivation for my channel, or somehow get terminated. But even if I do get terminated, I'll bounce back. So yeah, 300s are definitely a radio to go for. Now, these two handhelds here, these are both Radio Shack 12259s. This one I got off of Amazon in 2015.
Southwest winds 10
And this one I got off of eBay in 2021 or 2020, one of the two. So the differences between these. This one was made in 2004 and has the public alert logo on it. It has similar firmware to the 12522, which right now is just sitting in a box of shame because I'm actually going to be sending that out to Weather Radio Guru, because he actually manages to, he's actually been able to fix 522s, and I want to send mine to him so it can be fixed. Now, and then this one is kind of like the 2003 version of the 12261s. This has the older alert table, and it has a beeping siren for the tests. Now, there are different colors of the 259. Maybe if I'm in a place where I can just buy whatever weather radio I want, I'll get the other colors of the 259. But right now, these two will work for me. the next radio that I have here, and I just realized the siren is on this, so I'm gonna fix that. This is the Radio Shack 12250. Also, this was funny story about this. So, a friend of mine, Chaos Mox, he was willing to buy me like a bunch of radios back in like 2020 and 2021, and this was actually supposed to be one of them. Instead, I got a 120. I'll explain. Yeah. So, yeah, the 250 is a great radio. Personally, I'm not really super crazy about older radios, but certain ones I like, and this is one of them. And right next to it is the Radio Shack 12249. This I got in October 2020, like right at the start of the month. And unfortunately, as you can see, it has seen better days. Like there's yellowing, the door broke, and the speaker quality isn't exactly the best. The 250 speaker quality is good. The 249 is jank. And the 251 over here, which I'll get to later, that one isn't exactly good speaker quality either. So 249 versus the 250, I'd recommend the 250 personally. Because the 250 has alert blocking, the 249 does not. And the reception on the 250 is just generally better than the 249. So there's that. Next we have the Radio Shack 12251. I was holding off on buying this radio, but Mitchell was getting on everyone's case at the time, telling me to get a 251 because apparently it's a really great radio. Reception on it is actually kind of good. Like I was actually able to get KW35 on this in this particular portion of my room, but it's not something I'm really too crazy about because there's only a one character display. And the warning, watch, and statement lights are in a weird position. It's like, you have warning on the top right, you have watch on the bottom right, you have statement on the top left, and you have the low battery light on the bottom left. I don't know why the alert array is like that, but whatever, I guess that's Radio Shack for you. Because like with this, it's a statement, watch, and warning, and then statement, watch, and warning. Yeah. And for whatever reason, pressing any of these buttons actually lights up some of the lights. So, pressing the scroll, statement, confirm. This one doesn't flash anything unless it flashes the low battery light that's just on constantly. And the weather snooze button triggers the warning light. I don't know why. 251s are definitely interesting. And now we come to the great wall of WR100s. So we got a white V1 that I got in 2021, I believe. This early V2 I got in 2020. Yeah, I think I got this in 2022. This V2.5, the late V2 I got in 2018. The V3 I got in 2019. This V5 I got in 2016 or 2015. It was one of the two. This V5 I got in 2022. This V4 I got in 2022, and this RGB mounted V5 I got pretty recently. All these other 100s have been modified to have external better antennas by me personally, but this one right here was modified by Weather Radio Guru. He had one of these lying around and he was willing to send me this one for free, and I took it up because I am a sucker for anything RGB. Reception on the 100s are generally okay.
Temperature of 60.
This one I had like a little external antenna set up to get KW35. These ones I believe are all on WXM80 as well as these two. Now as far as radios over here, the FRX3 Plus. This I got in 2020 because I saw some enthusiasts having FRX3s.
Who was not available. The following.
And FRX3s are kind of like underappreciated, like they're like kind of underrated. They're okay, but they're not like the best. But I feel like they get like a lot of slack because they don't have SAME detection or a siren. But they're great portables if you ever like need to go out somewhere. Then there's the Hammaker Schlemmer variant that I got in I think I got in 2020 or 2021. This I got because I didn't even know there were different color schemes to the FRX3s. And this one kind of caught my eye because it's gray and it has like green labeling on it, and it's not one of the traditional Eton labelings like LL Bean or American Red Cross. This one was actually different. Now this FRX3 Yellow Jacket, this is my second one, but first one I got in 2020, I believe. And the Yellow Jackets are like, they're really great at DXing. Like I got my first FRX3 Yellow Jacket, I got WWH26, and unfortunately that one had its mini USB port break, so I couldn't charge it at all, and I was really sad because I enjoyed that radio so much. So I took the opportunity to buy another one, and yeah, now this is in my collection.
Temperature was 50.
And then there's the 993, which I got in March of 2015.
Tuesday night, mostly cloudy in the...
I got this on Amazon. Now you have to like rely on eBay listings to get them. These are really great radios. Definitely grab one if you can find one. Oh, and by the way, I should mention, this one I think I got off of Amazon, eBay. Like I said, Weather Radio Guru got me this one. eBay. Actually, no, this was actually gifted to me from Antonio Siri. I got this from him. This one I got from eBay. Weather Radio raffle. There we go. Amazon, eBay, Another Enthusiast, Amazon, eBay, Amazon. So then there's the FRX2 Digital right up here. I got this I think I got this in March of 2021. Chaos Mox actually got this for me as a birthday gift. I don't really use it as much because like
11 a.m. Monday for tonight.
Because like this is one of those radios that you can kind of just like let sit, and it'll do its own thing. But yeah, definitely a nice little handheld. One personally recommended as like a daily, because like you have to manually turn it on. It doesn't wake you up automatically. But yeah. Then there's the Eton Sidekick. I got this from, and I actually got this from Eton themselves because I had an FRX5 BT, but the antenna broke, and I wanted them to, and I was looking to have them send me a replacement radio, and they actually sent me this instead, which personally I kind of like this over the FRX5 BT. Like the only thing is like with the FRX5 BT, you have the solar panel in the back and an LED panel up top. This one's like the exact opposite. You have the solar panel up here, and you have like a whole LED panel on the back side. That I personally prefer because, I mean, it's kind of counterintuitive to have the radio face down to charge, because how are you going to listen for alerts or use the radio entirely if it's face down? Then there's the FRX5 LL Bean edition. I got this because FRX5s are typically rare in general. And this one I actually came across on eBay, and I didn't even know if anyone had it. So I grabbed it, and then it wasn't until after I got it that I realized that I just purchased a rare radio. Speaker quality on this is
For tonight, east winds 5 to 10 knots.
Yeah, apologies for the lighting, but yeah, speaker quality on this is mid, I guess. But this one,
Mile. For Monday, east winds around 10 knots with gusts.
speaker quality on this is like miles better compared to this. Next is the Eton LL Bean FR1 in red. An enthusiast who I will not mention got this for me. And the FR1 is like kind of underrated, but at the same time I can understand why. Because this has a siren, but it's like 1050 hertz activated only. You can't charge this through a solar panel. You have to use a micro USB or hand crank. And it's like, and the flashlight's not even that good. Like there's only one LED light here. Whereas with the FRX3 and the American Red Cross variants of the FR1, at least to my knowledge, those have 3 LEDs on them. But yeah, then we have the Eton SolarLink FR370.
ground 40. West winds 5 to 10.
This is the blue LL Bean variant. There's a lot of other variants out there. But this one I actually brought with me on a couple of my trips. The reception is great. It's pretty much just like a beefed up zone guard. And a much better built zone guard, if I'm honest. This has AM and FM on it. This has alert blocking, solar charging, hand crank charging. You can use a mini USB port to charge this, or a standard barrel head adapter. But yeah, reception on this is great. I've had a SolarLink for a few years. This SolarLink I definitely would recommend. I think I got this in 2018 or 19. It's definitely a step up compared to the American Red Cross version. This one, for some reason, has a better sounding speaker compared to the other one. Alright, so I'm gonna take a brief pause here because I gotta do some stuff. So I will continue this when I get back. Alright, so quite some time later, I have returned. So we left off at the SolarLink, so the FR370. So now we're gonna go over here to this new shelf that I just installed yesterday. So first off, we're going to start off with this Eton SolarLink FR600.
The marine forecast for western Long Island Sound. Cloudy in the low. Seas 1 foot.
Okay, so reception on this is actually pretty good. I actually got KIG 77 on this from here. And I got this because I saw one of my friends, they were like completely foaming over the FR600. And not gonna lie, I can kind of see why. It's basically just a beefed up FR370. It's got, in my opinion, a proper alert light array. Like you have the alert light, which is standard on some Eton models. Then you have a green statement light, a yellow emergency light, a orange watch light, and a red warning light. And this activates on the second header. And I like this radio so much that I actually got this one. This is a FR600 RDS that I got from the same guy that got me my 268, my WX268. And I actually got that as part of a trade. I traded my SFA 1135 for this. So, but yeah. So, mainly the two differences between these two, aside from the colors, is that one has RDS and this one does not. I mean, RDS is a nice little feature to have if you're DXing or listening to some FM stations. But I'd honestly recommend the FR600 for NOAA weather radio DXing if you don't have, for some reason, an ER310. Because these are like just as good. The only downside is that the antennas are static. Like you can only lift them up and put them down. You can't rotate them. Yeah, this I got in 2021, I believe. This I got in 2022 before my trip to North Carolina. Now, this, on the other hand, this is the Eton Weather Tracker FR800.
Monday night, west winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts up to 20.
Reception is kind of decent. The spot that it's in is a little bit iffy, especially for KW035 reception. But yeah, this I got on eBay, I believe. And I got this one on eBay as well. But this one I found on eBay for about 20 or 30 bucks. It's a good radio. I like how it has a telescoping antenna for once. Kind of like the FR370. But the only downside to this is that this runs on D batteries, which those are pretty expensive. And other than that, you can't really, you probably can tell on camera, but in person, like the way the exterior of this radio is designed is just like so much stuff sticks onto it. It's not even funny. I tried taking Clorox wipes and all that. It did not help. Like it really did not help at all. But I guess I could take what I can get. It's a great radio for 20 bucks. Definitely grab one of these if you can. Next radio, which is back here, this is the current version of the WX150 that I have.
Less areas of fog. Chance of shower.
So, like I said earlier, I got this one because the one that I had before, I tried modifying it and it broke. But this one, on the other hand, this one works perfectly. This one I got on eBay. It's a side mount antenna. Reception on it is actually better than the last one that I had. The button beeps are lower pitched, the siren is lower pitched. Kind of sounds like an Emerson CKW2000, which I'll get to later. And it's got custom alerts. You can add like up to 4 alerts, I think. So that's perfect. Personally, for me, I'd recommend this radio like for collecting, but I wouldn't recommend it as like a good starter. The menu is a little bit confusing to go around, but oh, and there's no display mode unless you disable the siren on all the alerts that you can disable them on, which is kind of eh. Now over here, this is one of the other holy grails of weather radio collectors collection. This is the Midland. I'm gonna go shoot myself. No, the Motorola MWR 839. Okay, so normally the reception on this is great, but I have this monitoring WWH33. But if I can tune the channel, if I change this to like let's say KWO35.
Was 29.82 inches and falling. The report from the Bronx Mechanic.
You can already tell the sound quality is perfect. I'm gonna change this back to channel 5 and I might fiddle around with the antenna a little bit off camera, but yeah, the reception on this is pretty good. It's great for AM DXing if you don't have a Spark or an HDR14. And yeah, I think I got this in like 2020. I found it on eBay for like $60. And I knew I had to get it. Oh no, don't mind like the red scuff marks on here. I think that's just from this. But yeah, definitely get a Motorola MWR 839 if you can, because these are essentially just the white Sangean CL100. And speaking of the CL100, that'll be the next radio I'll be talking about. I got this in December 29th, 2017.
Winds force south at 12 knots. The air temperature was 59 degrees at New York Harbor entrance.
So, the Motorola MWR 839 and the Sangean CL100, both of these radios are perfect. DXing on AM is great. Reception on it is also great. I would definitely recommend this because it's a lot easier to find than this. But yeah, other than that, great radios. I've had them for a while. Looking forward to see what severe weather season brings for these, and hopefully WWH33 reception will be at least a little bit better on this as time goes on. Yeah, I might have to change the channel on this because I really want to have multiple WWH33 monitors, but this is clearly not doing it. Next radio over here. This is the, I'm gonna fix the, there we go. This is the Kaito KA110.
Cloudy. Areas of dense fog. A chance of showers after midnight. Visibility 1/4 mile or less at times.
Okay, so I don't really use this as much as I used to, but the reason I got this, this is actually one of the first radios that I knew of where you could record like the actual broadcast, like whether it be on AM, FM, or even weather band. You can press this little record button, it'll record and it'll save to a micro SD card. And I actually use this to get a direct audio cycle for WWH33, which personally, it's a great radio. I wouldn't recommend using it to record because the recorder does use a lot of interference. It does cause a lot of interference, I should say. So what I'd recommend doing is taking a radio, plugging it into the radio's line in port, and then record it that way. So there's that. Over here is my first 519 that I got back in 2015.
Miles per hour. Tuesday night, mostly cloudy in the evening, then becoming partly cloudy. Lows in the mid-40s.
So this 519 I got in March of 2015, the same time that I got the 259 actually. So I got this because I've heard so many good things about the 519. This one I was kind of bummed to find out that it was a third header 519, but I guess on Amazon you don't really see a lot of first header 519s. You have to really look at eBay to find it, and even then trying to find a first header 519 is like trying to find a black and silver WR100. It's kind of impossible because like Actually, not even a black and silver, because those are a little bit more noticeable in terms of differences. It's kind of like trying to find a version 1 or a version 2. It's like, they all look the same, but you won't know if your 519 is a first header or a third header until it activates. Kind of like how you can't really tell with a V1 or V2 what version of firmware it's going to have. Reception is not too crazy about it. This one's tuner is actually fully functional. The other one is a little bit... The other 519 tuner is a little bit wonky, to say the least. This radio, this piece of garbage...
It's around 3 feet. Areas of fog. Chance of showers after.
This is the Lacrosse... I don't know what frickin'... I think it's like the W85947 or something. I got this in 2020 as well. And... to be honest, I've had quite a few issues with this. Like, the tuner would actually die out and stop working, but as soon as I go ahead to restart it, that's when it starts working again. But, yeah, this also has AM and FM, as you can see up top. And this here is like a little, it's kind of like a one-button alert blocking. So, as you can see here, it says, weather alerts, there's tornado only, and if I press that button again, it'll say all hazards. So this is like a quick and easy way to set it to alert only for tornado related products. And once tornado mode is activated, you'll see this light here turn on. It looks kind of like orange and yellow on camera, but in person it's actually red. So I personally leave it on all hazards, because that's the point of an all hazards alert radio. But yeah, I personally wouldn't recommend this unless you have like one of the working ones. I don't know how finding a working one will work with this, because like I know there's like certain things to look for to make sure that you're not getting a jank model. But this one I think might be one of the jank models, because the tuner on it would like completely cut out. And I'd have to restart the radio in order to get it working again. Alright, so now this radio right here, I got this in 2022. This is the ZWS 604. So essentially, this is like ZWIS's competitor to the KA110. And as you can see, green backlight, Comic Sans welcome screen.
Slight chance of showers in the evening. And for
this also has a recording feature.
winds 10 to 15 knots,
I'm gonna
up to 20 knots.
I'm gonna see if there's a way I can like
Dew point 69 and the relative humidity 73%. The wind was northwest at 3 miles an hour. The pressure was 30.17 inches and steady.
This is NOAA weather. All hazards radio station WXJ46, Miamisburg, Ohio. Broadcasting on a frequency of 162.475 megahertz and serving the Miami Valley of Ohio and the Whitewater Valley of East Central Indiana. Chance of rain 70%. This is the NOAA weather radio, all hazards, WXL.
Alright, so there's that. Another reason why I got this radio is you can actually set the date and time on this. Unfortunately, this does not translate over to the, what do you call it? The SD card reading, or at least the audio recording. I don't know why, but yeah, so there's that. I'm gonna go ahead and power this down. But yeah, if I had to choose between this or the KA110, personally, I would have to say this is the better bet, because you can actually choose what color backlight you want on it, and the interference with the recording is a little bit less severe compared to that. Then over here is the Recom R500.
The wind was held at...
And of course it's not really doing it to the best of its abilities now, but the reason I got this radio is because it has multi-channel monitoring. So if I raise the antenna up a bit...
It was cloudy with a temperature of 57. Connecticut. Throughout the area.
Yeah, so I might have to find an actual better place to put this, but this can actually monitor multiple channels at once. and because of that feature, it actually makes NOAA weather radio EAS catching a lot easier to do, because it'll actually show what alert is being relayed on which channel. So like if I, that's not the way to go. So like right here, it'll no. Yeah, so like right here, it'll channel 4, channel 7, channel 1, 4, 1. Yeah, so it'll actually say what channel it got the alert on. And if, let's say if I were to self-activate this radio on channel 1, while this is listening to channel 4, it'll actually switch over to channel 1 to play the alert. So that's one of the reasons I got this radio. I wouldn't recommend it mainly for the price, but if you have the money, I'd say go for it. Then there's this, the Radio Shack 12253.
Available. The following are coastal weather shore reports on Long Island Sound. If available.
So this is a rare radio. I think I paid like $100 for this. I wouldn't recommend that price personally, but something cool to note is that the warning light array on here, it says statement, watch, and then warning / emergency. So this one is a little bit more in line with how alerts from radios from 2002 to 2003 were made. This is a little bit more in line with how alerts actually disseminated. Because some warnings would actually, some alerts that show up as advisory now would show up on here as like a watch or a warning. And emergencies are technically on the same level as warnings, so there's that. I don't know why the FCC said that emergencies are pretty much advisories now, but that's for another day. Next over here we have the Honeywell RN507W.
Night, mostly clear. Lows in the lower 40s.
So this is my second one. The first one I got in 2020, but it just straight up would not activate for anything, even with a clear signal. I tried everything in my power to get it to work, and it just wouldn't. Plus, it was like one of the louder variants too. This one is a little bit quieter, and it actually activates for stuff. Knock on wood. So I personally recommend, if you're looking for a Honeywell, get one that's, try and find one that's quiet and actually activates for alerts, because if you're like me who wants to see all of her radios going off, yeah. Seeing a radio not activating even on a clear signal just drives me nuts. So there's that. FM is decent, I guess. The setup is a bit confusing because like you have the date and time right here. It's atomic time, and like it's kind of like on the 253, but you have to you have to press this top button here, and then use some buttons on the back to change to change all the settings and whatnot. I don't know why they couldn't do it through the front panel, but and the fact that they literally used the 262.521 firmware. Actually, I think it used more of the 262 firmware, if I'm honest. I'll have to check, but yeah, they used more of the 262's firmware. Not really too crazy about how they kind of borrowed Radio Shack's firmware, but I guess if you're looking to sell a radio for a cheaper price, I guess collaborating wouldn't really hurt. Next is the Accurate 8500.
Seas 1 foot or less. Areas of fog. Chance of showers after midnight. Visibility.
So this was actually another radio that Chaos Mox got me. This was on Amazon, and it's a really cool radio, if I'm honest. Like, you don't really see a lot of radios looking quite like this. This one is definitely a bit of a pain in the neck to set up, because like on some settings you have to wait for the entire screen to scroll before doing anything. The warning watch and advisory lights are up there, kind of like in a LED ring type of enclosure. And I don't know why, but like when people like do innovative stuff like that, it's interesting. Kind of like how with this, they have a red warning light, a yellow watch light, and a green advisory light, even though the advisory bubble here is blue. I don't know why. But yeah, when they do innovative things like making unique styled arrays for the warning watch and advisory lights, I like that. Now, this next radio I got in 2020, in October 2020, along with a couple of other ones. This is the V15 HH54 VP2.
High tide is at 5:46 p.m.
And I am going to change the channel on this.
Visibility less.
So, I've wanted a V15 for a while. The siren on it sounds kind of similar to that of the WR100s. And the button beeps to me, even though I find it kind of annoying that you can't shut them off, but I like how they're actually a little bit lower pitched compared to that of the V16s that we have now. Yeah, it's a great little handheld. A little bit harder to find compared to the version 16s, but I'd recommend a V15 personally because just mainly for that older Midland style feeling, if that makes sense. Because Midland made killer radios back in the day. They still do now, but you don't really see a lot of their same capable radios being made. Mostly you just see like the ER series of radios that Midland's trying to push. And the HHs were just a great radio. It's really sad that Midland killed these radios off because I get there's like supply chain issues and whatnot, but even then it's a great radio. You gotta admit that. Alright, so that wraps up that. Next we have the First Alert WX67.
Long Island between Montauk Point and Sandy Hook, up to 1,000 fathoms. Tonight, variable winds less than 10 knots, becoming south to southeast. Then.
Alright, so this I got in Christmas of 2021 or 2022. It was one of the two. They're okay. Not exactly the best, not exactly the worst, but they are interesting radios. And if you're wondering how I got it to stand up like this, let's just say, if I can aim the camera over, using the wall mount actually acts as a really great stand. So, you just gotta make sure that it's actually standing up. But yeah, the WX67 is interesting. I wouldn't say it's something to really obsess over, but it's something that's nice to have. Next is another one of my recent additions. This is the Jensen JEP 725. So you can kind of see what Spectrum Merchandising did with this. Yeah, I mean, the radio looks very familiar and almost kind of reminds me of a radio that we'll get into shortly. Speaker quality is okay. The antenna, they probably could have done a better job on. This was originally supposed to be same decoding, but because of these chip shortages that we're having, that feature was unfortunately axed. I also like how there's the alert ring itself is in red entirely, but it would be cool if you could if there was a transparent version of this. But if there's a transparent version of this and you could change the colors or whatever, by modifying it. But yeah, I can't really do much with this. It's a great radio, definitely recommend it, but the radio that kind of preceded this is something a little bit better. Next radio down here, I got this for Christmas in 2020, is the Midland WR10. I really just do not really use this radio because the reception on it is just garbage. I did modify the alert light to make it blue, simply because the red one that was in there now is kind of dim. This one is a lot brighter, and when it actually receives stuff and here's the 1050, it has a really cool siren. I'm not gonna play that now because it's loud, and quite honestly, I have a lot of radios here, and I want to get this collection video done. Even though it was something that I wanted to do, but I also like how the Midland M is like the main design for that radio. It's like you can see here the M in Midland, and then here is the M itself. Yeah, but personally I wouldn't recommend this radio because the reception on it is just garbage. I've even tried using external antennas and have had no luck, so yeah. Next radio over here is another older Midland radio. It's the 74105XL. And somehow this is getting better reception than that. I swear, my radios surprise me. But yeah, the 74105, you can really tell that it's dated because the tuning dial and just the overall look of it. I don't have the box for it, but I know the box even looks like it was something that came out of the 90s or 80s. The frequencies on the back are on both of these actually. I think they're listed in the order that they were established, whereas on most radios it's sorted by frequency, like from ascending order. But yeah, there's 105XL. The siren on mine for some reason is like super high pitched, but yeah, I wouldn't really recommend that radio because it's like, it's old. It's the reception on it is questionable to say the least. Like one day it'll be receiving stuff just fine, the next day it'll be like not receiving anything at all. So yeah. Next radio over here, I got this in 2020 as well, and I'm gonna turn on my little Echo Glow light.
I'm having trouble hearing. Can you say that again?
I was not talking to you.
Sorry. I thought I heard my name.
And yes, my Amazon devices have the male voice. Do not at me. So this is the Midland ER102MO. I got this off of a former enthusiast back in 2020, along with the V15. And to be honest, it's good. The battery life on it sucks, but then again, the battery's probably flat anyway. The siren is interesting to say the least. It's another one of those high-low sirens, and it's 1050 Hz activated. Reception on this is also questionable, especially when you pair it with like older radios. It'll just completely zonk out, if that makes sense. This also has a bad case of antenna limp syndrome, so unfortunately that also kind of interferes with how the reception is, which but yeah, if you can find one of these, definitely grab them, mainly for the rarity. I wouldn't recommend it as like a daily use unless you live in a very good area and you're able to like use it as a monitor for a stream or even for your NDEC. Personally, I just recommend using like a scanner or something and having it plugged into its headphone jack. But I digress. Next, over here we have one of my other 120s.
Miles per hour, becoming south in the afternoon. Monday night.
So like I said, I started off with a 120 back in 2014. It was October 11th, actually. This particular one I got much later on. I think I got it in 2017 because the backlight on the original one was dim. But this particular 120 I got in 2017. But I've just said that I got it in 2014 because, well, to be honest, you can kind of expect that 120s would be around for a long time. And this, funny enough, it has the event code glitch. Like, oddly enough, I was modifying the backlight on this, and I wanted to set the backlight on permanently just to make sure that I was doing the job right. Next thing I know, I restart the device, and with the little menu glitch where you press the menu button while powering on the radio, it actually said 200:* instead of 200:226 like most 120s would. So because of that, the radio now only displays the event code instead of the event name. But yeah, 120 receptions in 120 reception in general is pretty good. This one's kind of good. I actually had this on KWO35 with my last setup. That is until I got this new shelf. But yeah, definitely, like I said, definitely get a 120. I started out with one. 90% of enthusiasts started out with a 120. They're really great radios. Right, next radio is another one I've modified. This is the Recom R1650D.
Patchy fog in the afternoon. Visibility 1/4 mile or less at times in the morning.
So, the main modifications that I did was I modified the warning, watch, and advisory lights. The warning light's blue, the watch light is green, and the advisory statement light is white. Why those colors specifically? Just wanted to do something different. I personally like modifying, I like modifying radios, and I really want to get back into it, but I'm terrified of breaking them, so that's going to have to hold off for a while. Unless there's a way I can, unless there's a radio that's, you can modify without having to do much, I'm going to stick to leaving my radios as stock as I can. And if I do decide to modify, then it's getting modified. Yeah, I got this in February 2015. It's a really great radio. I've heard lots of good things about it. The only thing is, the buttons on this are kind of, starting to get a little bit iffy. But other than that, it's really chugging along. So, there's that. I definitely recommend getting these if you can. I honestly prefer these over the 500s, mainly for the price. So, the next radio, we're going to go on to along my headboard here. This is the Radio Shack 12261, the 2004 variant.
To 20 knots. Seas around 2 feet.
So this one I also modified.
5.
As you can see here, I did the bisexual pride colors. I got blue, purple, and pink. So, yeah, the 261 I actually got because a former enthusiast had it. Well, had a 261, but it was the 03 variant. I got the 04 variant, thinking that all 261s were made the same, and that was when I realized that both 261s, some 261s are made differently compared to the others, because I honestly think this was one of those models that it was made right before and after the FCC updated the alert table. It's a great radio, especially since it's a lot more durable and compared to the 521s and 262s and even the 382s. But yeah, I personally recommend the 261s over those other Radio Shacks. There are some Radio Shacks that I recommend more, but 261s are definitely ones that I'd recommend. The only thing is they're kind of top heavy, so make sure that you at least have some sort of flat surface to put them on. Next is the latest rendition of the WR400.
10 to 15 knots with gusts up to 25 knots. Waves 1 foot or less.
So, this is similar to the other 400 that I have in my office, but the only difference is this one has snow squall warning and blue alert programmed into it. The other one doesn't. So, yeah, I'm not really going to go into much detail with this because it's essentially the same thing. But there is a 400 that I will go more in depth with later on. Now and this I got in 2021 from Midland. From Midland themselves, so I knew I was getting the latest possible version. Anyways, next we have the Radio Shack 12260.
Tide is at 1:03 a.m. Monday and 1:51.
So this I got in 2019 because I've always wanted a 260. Just something about 1050 hertz radios kind of interests me. Plus, I wanted to use it to antagonize the enthusiast that will not be named, because he has a very strong aversion to radios that have a screen but no SAME detection. And to those who know that know who I speak of, yeah, Reception on it is actually decent. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it is pretty decent. Setup is a little bit tricky, but once you kind of like get the hang of it, it's easy to set up. But I'd recommend having like, and this goes for any radio. If you don't know how to set it up, have the owner's manual with you. So, yeah, there's that with the 260. This is the Radio Shack 12-1476. And I'm going to set this to weather band.
Buoy was not available. The following are available coastal weather report.
So, this is this was an interesting radio. I found this on eBay, and I wanted to get it because I heard good things about it. DXing is pretty decent on weatherband. Battery life is kind of decent. The backlight on this is kind of dead, to say the least. Yeah, I think it's like completely dead from what I can see. But yeah, the 1476 is okay. I wouldn't recommend it personally because like it takes a special power adapter, and if that power adapter breaks, then you're kind of screwed. So yeah, there's that on the 1476. It's still a great radio. Just be careful with the power cord, because you never know if that cord dies or if you somehow manage to get the radio to not take AC power, you're pretty much stuck with batteries. So there's that. I can't remember when I got this, but like I said, I'll leave dates and whatnot in the video itself. Next we got the Radio Shack 12258.
Wave height 3 feet. Wave period 8 seconds.
So the main reason I got this, it's rare, and as you can see from the side, you can actually plug this into a computer to set it up. And there actually is a program that you can use to see what the radio is decoding. Unfortunately, that needs a special cable, and I do not have it, nor the software. So that is a big sad moment. So yeah, unfortunately I'm going to have to do without the software, unfortunately. So there's that. It's a great radio otherwise. Kind of have to, I mean, you can wall mount this if you want to, but you just have to be mindful that like there's a bulge on the side. I don't know why that is, but I digress. Next is one of the other 120s that I have.
Forecast for eastern Long Island.
I've modified this to have a red backlight. Again, same deal. Reception is okay. This one doesn't have the event code glitch. But funny story about this particular 120. So this was originally supposed to be the 12250 over there. He was planning on getting me the Radio Shack 12250 and the Accurate 8500. The 8500 came as planned, but the 12250 came up as a 120. So, and honestly, having two 120s kind of inspired me to get my third one, which is in the office. I guess kind of a good thing happened from a mix-up, so that's definitely a plus. Next over here we have the 03 version of the 261.
Lows in the mid-40s. West wind.
So this one's a little bit more sought after because this has the different firmware that gives a different siren for tests and for certain other alerts that I don't really know off the top of my head. Reception is okay, but personally I prefer the warning watch and statement array better than at least the default warning watch and advisory array that's on the 261s normally. Like I said, this one's modified, this one was kept stock. So there's that with the 03 261s. I'd recommend these more because they're a little bit more rare than the 04s, but definitely get your hands on a 261 at some point. Especially if you're a 262, 521, or 382 dies. Anyways, so that's all the radios on my headboard. Now we're gonna go up to this top shelf here, which this shelf has been in all my videos for a long time now. So we're gonna start off over here with my Radio Shack 125. I'm gonna shit myself for real. The Radio Shack 12996.
Southeast winds around 5 miles per...
So I actually got this at a Radio Shack, and they had this for like $40. It was either this or the Zone Guard, and I'm glad I got this because these have become rare now. Reception on these is amazing. The huge aftermarket antenna that I have here, this isn't even fully extended, but the aftermarket antenna that I have on here is huge, and thus the reception on it is a lot better for weatherband and FM. But yeah, I definitely recommend these 996s. These are technically the radios that kind of like revolutionized weather radios as a whole, because this was like one of the first touchscreen weather radios that Radio Shack ever made. It was the only touchscreen radio that Radio Shack made. The tuning on it is perfect. It has AUX on it. Speaker quality is absolutely amazing, as you just heard. Like I said, I definitely recommend this. If you can get one for an affordable price, get it. Get it. This is like one of the primary radios that I have now, so. Next, we're going to move on to this Maxon WX80 that I got in 2020.
Sunday, partly sunny with a 30% chance of showers. Highs in the mid-60s. The possible water forecast from San Diego Future.
Okay, and I'm going to change the channel on this.
Areas of fog. For Monday, east winds around 10 knots with gusts up to 20 knots.
So, basically, think of this radio as like a baby 12250. Because this has alert blocking, older alert table, as you can kind of see by the warning watch and statement lights here. It's literally just like a mini 12250. And it's maybe about the same size as my hand. This is also one of those radios that takes a center negative power supply. So just be careful with that. Like if you do plan on getting a WX80, make sure it's at least new in box or has the factory cable, because center negatives are hard to come by. And since this radio is one of the more rare ones, you're gonna have a little bit of a hard time finding it. Alright, so the next radio over here, this is another one of those radios I got in 2015. This is the Eton Zone Guard Plus.
Gusts up to 20 knots. 10 to 15 knots with gusts.
So unfortunately, this is being plagued with the same issues that my regular Zone Guard has, which is the faulty buttons. The reception on this is eh. Unfortunately, the antenna suffered some kind of damage. And unfortunately, that meant having to put some painter's tape on the antenna, and now it doesn't retract all the way. This has wireless alert modules too that you can put like anywhere in your house, but I don't use them simply because they're kind of annoying if I'm honest. And plus, there's no way to like hook them up to the radio directly. It's all done wirelessly, and you need like AAA batteries just to get it to work. And quite honestly, I do not feel like recharging AAA batteries at all. So, yeah, personally, I would prefer the regular Zone Guard over this. So, next radio I got in 2018 is the Emerson Research CKW 2000.
Pressure was 29.80 inches and falling.
So this is kind of like if the AlertWorks EAR-10 and the Midland WR-300 had a baby, and this was the offspring. Except the AlertWorks EAR-10 came out later, so yeah. So this radio is interesting, but unfortunately, this radio is also one of those radios where if you plug it in, sometimes it'll cause interference with other radios, like these little fuckers over here. So yeah, this is definitely it's a good collector's radio. There have actually been like once in a blue moon listings of these radios. Like that's how rare they've gotten. So if you see one and you want one, grab it, because it's not often that these ever come up. Next radio over here is a little bit more common. This is the Max Digital CR01NW.
It was 53 degrees. The report from Central Long Island Sound was not available. The following are coast.
So, if y'all don't know, this is basically like a third-party-ish version of the Capello CR2W. I got this on January 19th, 2015. I got my first one, that is. The speaker blew on that one in 2022, and I got this to replace it. So, and the Max Digitals, they're pretty underrated. Like, people give them a lot of flack because of the siren or because of the slow tuning or whatever, but the reception on this is pretty good. I'd say it's probably on par with, like, a WR400. It also has this cute little... Wow. It has this little stand on the back that you can use to, like, have it propped up on an angle, which for something like this, I'd say it's definitely, like, for something on the, like...
Thought so.
Can you shut the f... For having it on a shelf like this that's angled downward, having it flat on its back, having this flat on its back is kind of counterintuitive, which is kind of saying something considering how I have two radios with flat backs on there. But with this, you can kind of like look up and you'll be able to see it, like, without having to, like, stretch your neck or something. So I'd recommend getting this radio if you can, or the Capello version. I'm not sure which one's rarer. I think the Max Digital one is more common, but I'd recommend getting one of these or the Capellos because they're essentially the same thing. It's just the button layout and the front faceplate is different. Next we have the Uniden WX100. I don't know why the reception was being so garbage like that, but yeah. So this I got for like $50 or $60 on eBay in 2018. If you try to get one of these now, you're easily going to be spending like a whole, at least in my case, you're probably going to be spending like 2 months worth of rent. So, definitely try to avoid this radio, especially now. If the price comes back down to something that's a little bit more reasonable, then go for it. But for this, like, at the prices that it's going for now, no. Like, just no. The reception on it is great. It uses a lot of the parts that were made with the Uniden scanners that were made at the time. And the sirens sound pretty cool. I'm not going to do the sirens because it's loud, but if you've seen some of my past videos, you'll know what the siren sounds like on this. Alright, the next radio here, we have the Spectra First Alert SFA 1150. Really?
And for Tuesday, west winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts up to 20 knots.
I don't know what it is with the reception. Like, I had these radios on WSJ42 and KW35 just fine last night, and now the reception's just gone to jank. But this is the version of the of these little orb-styled radios that I prefer. So you can actually test the siren on this. It's got same decoding. Reception is pretty decent, but mainly for same alone, I prefer this over that. So, yeah, I definitely recommend this if you can find one. Unfortunately, they're pretty sought after, and some of the enthusiasts that have them now have had them for a long time. Like, I got this in like 2015, like Christmas Eve 2015. I eventually had it replaced because the antenna on the back broke. So yeah, I had this, and I got this particular model in 2017, but I've had a SFA 1150 since 2015, and it's great. It's a great radio. Definitely try and get one if you can find one. Alright, so next, I'm going to try and stand up and not hit my head on my ceiling fan here. We have the OG version of the WR400. And this is getting a channel change. reception on these are just fine yesterday. I don't know why it's messing up now. But, so I'm going to show you what I was talking about. So, let's go to 107.1, 107.3, then it goes back to 87.5. So that's what I was talking about with the FM being a little bit questionable.
For Monday night.
One cool thing I will say about this radio, this actually takes a micro USB power supply instead of a barrel head connector. And I really wish Midland kept that, because micro USB connections, they're a lot more common than barrel heads. And pretty much everyone that has an Android phone or something has a micro USB cord. And this also has, like the other 400s that I have, this has USB charging on the side. Right there. But yeah, 400s are definitely great. But personally, I would recommend the newer versions just because they have more alerts on them. But if you really want the original version, I'd say go for it. Especially because like you can pretty much take it anywhere. Like you could even take it in your car and plug it in with a generic micro USB cable. It might not be as efficient, but it's something. So, with that said, we are going to hop over to the next set of radios here. So right here we have the I Love IMM 183.
Wednesday, west winds 15 to 20 knots. Seas 4 to 7 feet.
So this has been sitting in this particular spot for a while. And the reason for that is because this radio does not have a built-in antenna. You have to rely on an external antenna to get it to work. And the reason I got this is because I have these two iPod Touches here. You got a second gen. I think I inherited this from my father. And then we have this third gen here that I've had since like 2010. And I really need to put a new label on this, but actually a new label and a case. But yeah, this device I actually used for self-activating, and the power button doesn't seem to work. So yeah, one of the cool things about this is that you can put your iPods on them and listen to music if you really wanted to. And it's actually useful because I can actually, let's say if I wanted to self-activate my radios, and I can just bring this with me, and when the battery gets depleted enough, I can just put it on this and it'll charge. I don't need to rely on like finding a 30-pin connector just to get it to work. So yeah, otherwise the IMM 183 is okay. I do wish I got mine with a remote, but it's a rare radio, so I'm not really complaining. Definitely try and grab these if you can. Let's see. So next up, over here, this is one of the original 120s that I got.
Winds 10 to 15 knots, becoming...
And by original, I'm talking about the firmware. As you can see, 651:224. So the main difference between this and the other 120s, aside from the backlight, of course, you get this weekly test option in the menu. And you don't get the menu lag or when you're saving, which makes it a lot easier to just go into the menu, change the channel, DX if you want to. This is kind of like this was made during that stage where Midland was just getting ready to kill off the 100 and replace it with the 120. So I would personally recommend an original model 120. Like the two models of 120s that I recommend are this one and the latest version, because the late versions of the 120s, those have the newer alerts on it, like snow squall warnings, storm surge warning, watch, blue alert, extreme wind warning. This one doesn't have all those new alerts, but it's one of the classic 120s, and going through the menu is a lot more efficient. Which, by the way, speaking of menus, I should also mention the menu on, I think I touched up on this already, but on these running snails, the menu is actually different. I'll discuss that probably in a future video. But yeah, there's the original 120. I got this in, I think I got this in 2022. It originally came without a faceplate, but I had a buddy of mine send me a 120 faceplate, and I put some Loctite on there, and now it's staying there perfectly. I don't know what it is, but some radios without a faceplate, or seeing radios without a faceplate, it bothers me. And I'm honestly questioning how people can use radios without a faceplate. I really am. Because that would drive me nuts if I ever had to do that. Next up over here is the Radio Shack 12255.
This broadcast originates from the National Weather Service forecast.
I got this in 2019, and as you can see, the backlight is dim. This won't last long though, because like I'm doing with my 522, I'm planning on setting this to Weather Radio Guru to have the backlight fixed and possibly change to a different color. I'm trying to decide if I want to do the factory blue or if I want to do something a little bit better to kind of counteract this sun bleachness here. But yeah, the 255 is a great radio. It kind of reminds me of like one of those old box set televisions, like, you know, the ones I'm talking about, like from Zenith and Mitsubishi when they actually made electronics. But yeah, the only downside is that like the buttons are hidden behind this door. I feel like Radio Shack could have done that a little bit better. Oh yeah, by the way, the reception on this is okay. Not as good as the 258, and definitely not as good as like some of their later model Radio Shacks. Wait, did I even go over my 991? I forget. I'll touch up on it later. But yeah, I don't think I went over it, but I'll get to that. Next we have the Midland WR11.
Tuesday night, mostly cloudy. Lows around 40. West winds 5 to 10, while 41 a.m.
Okay, so this is one of those radios that I was talking about that kind of messes up other radio reception. So right now, as you can see, this is on channel 4. These two radios are on channel 4 as well.
Sunday at 4:22 a.m. At Montauk, night tide is at 51. Sunday at 1:51 p.m. Monday. These are the 5 p.m. observations.
Yeah, so that's why you got to be careful with how you're arranging your radios. So if there's a way I can like change that so that doesn't happen, please let me know. But yeah, the WR11 is interesting.
Highs in the upper.
I got this off of another enthusiast, the same guy that got me the V15 and the ER102MO. The siren on it is interesting. The design I'm not really too crazy about, but it's something, I guess. But the good thing is that the siren, you can set it to be like temporary for a few seconds, or you can have it set to be constant or just not at all. You can have it set to the alert, just to have the alert light flash. Which, personally, during the night, I recommend that, especially because when you're sleeping, you don't want to have like 100+ radios blasting in your ears. I've been there before, so. Anyways, there's that. Next, we have the Midland WR30.
Talk point was not available. The report from Central Sound Buoy was not.
So, fun facts. I actually had this radio before. I got this in 2018, thinking it was just a 74210. So, I got this, thinking it was a 74210. The speaker on it was busted. I sent it out to He Who Shall Not Be Mentioned. And he fixed the speaker on it. Then he had it for a few years, and I actually asked for it back because this was around the time when my 74200 actually broke. And He Who Shall Not Be Mentioned gave this to me. He said, "Here, you can take it." And I've been happy ever since. So it was like, it was one of those things where like I gave it to the guy, and he gave it back when I asked. See, like when it's free like that, I can maybe understand asking for something back, but it's kind of scummy in my opinion. But if you're paying for something and the seller wants it back, like no. So yeah, I got this in February 2018. Then I got this, which is an actual 74210 I got this, like, I want to say a few months later.
The lower 60s. East winds tend to...
Oh, and if you're wondering why I have an RCA cable, like, wrapped around this in my OG 120, this is the only way that the 120 will get perfect reception, so... Yeah, you can see I had to compromise a bit. So if I had to choose which one I'd recommend between these two, I'd recommend this one more. Simply for the fact that this one occasionally locks up. And the dial on this one is kind of fading out, which kind of sucks, but whatever. But yeah, this radio, if you're gonna have it like in a different room, then okay, yes, go for it. But if you're gonna have it in the same room with like multiple other radios like I do, make sure you don't plug this in next to like a WR11, a CKW2000, a WX100. Just be careful, because the interference will drive you nuts, and it definitely did that for me. So yeah, there's that. And just in case I didn't go over it, I'm gonna go back over here and showcase my 991.
Here are the latest observations for Massachusetts.
Wait, what? Yeah, I think I did go over this. Jesus Christ, I was filming for a few hours and I already forgot what I filmed. That's what a large collection does to a gal like me. So, anyways, yeah, that's... Oh, I didn't even go over the dead radios yet. Fair warning, you will be seeing broken radios. I'm not sure if anyone is actually upset about seeing this, but yeah. So, this was my first Honeywell that I was talking about. The reason why you're hearing stuff rattling around, I have the screws in there because, well, I'm using this for parts now. Any radio that breaks on me, I'm just gonna be using for parts. So, this was the Honeywell that I first got back in 2020. This one was the loud variant, so I would hear the radios just like screaming at full volume. Or even it would act like it's screaming at full volume on level 1. So there's that. And the fact that this wasn't activating wasn't exactly much of a benefit either. Next, as I proceed to almost knock everything over, these are some older WR100s that I have. This is one of the first V5s that I have. Actually, I think all of these are V5s. Oh no, this was a V4. The tuner on it was like in the bed. This was a NorCal Dude 599's old V5. The tuner on this one died. This is a Walmart WR100 that I got. Unfortunately, said Walmart that I got it from is now closed. Like, I think they went out of business. So there's these three 100s. What else? Here's my first Max Digital. The speaker on it blew, so I decided to just scrap it for parts. My first 74-200, this one broke. Back there is a 521 that broke. Over here is a my realistic 154. Here's some 100 faceplates. Here's the first 74-250 that I got. This one actually had tuner issues from the beginning. Let's see. This was 12247. Chaos Mox got me this. SPC Jefferson 1030 got me this realistic 12154. Now back here, let's just say WX500. So long story short, the antenna, I tried swapping antennas onto this, and unfortunately, me being the that I am, used a stripped screw, so now it's stuck in there. Unless someone knows how to like remove a stripped screw, but I don't think anything can save this. But yeah, only with like certain EAS headers would this thing go off. Other than that, it's as good as a doorstop. So yeah. So I'm gonna put this stuff back, or at least try and force it back into my closet of shame. And yeah, that is pretty much my entire weather radio collection video.
Nope.
Oh my god, I really forgot 2 radios over here. We got my 521, my working 521 here.
Wave height 3 feet. Wave period 8 seconds.
So this I got in, I forget what year I got it in, but this I got because my first 521 that I just showed you broke. 521s are actually pretty good radios.
Airport, it was partly sunny. The temperature 20 degrees. The dew was southeast.
Yeah, so there's certain models of the 521 that you're supposed to get. I don't know which one specifically, but if you can find a 521 that's the model that everyone's supposed to look for, definitely grab one. Now, this next radio isn't exactly one that I would recommend even as a collector. This is the Redicus TR625.
Wind was east at 6 miles an hour.
There are a lot of flaws. Like, the firmware is just bugged. The way the radio operates is just completely bugged. Like, it's not even good enough for a consumer product. I really don't know what Redicus was thinking making this. I really wish that they took a lot more time overlooking this radio's flaws before pushing it out to the market. And considering how I paid like $50 for this on eBay, it's not worth that type of money. And yeah, so next, well, I say last, this is the 522 that I plan on sending to Weather Radio Guru to have fixed. And honestly, I'll say this now: if he's able to fix this with no issues, he says he'll be able to fix it, but I might just have to reach out to him for a partnership or something, because I've been wanting to get some of my radios fixed for a while. Like the well, let me see, the 121476 has a dead backlight. It's almost dead. I think it is actually dead. The 255, as I just told you, the backlight on that is dead. I've been wanting to modify some more of my radios as well, so yeah, I'm hoping that with time I can actually do that. And honestly, like I said, Weather Radio Guru has done a lot of stuff. He was the one that modified that 100V5 over there. And if he's able to fix more radios, like even the rare ones like the WX500, I honestly might just fully endorse them as an official ThunderBuddy 01 Media Network partner. But I digress from that. So now my collection video is done. Like I said, I'm sorry if it took so long to finally get around to making this. I said I was gonna make this once I hit 3,000 subs, but like I said, my responsibilities as an adult have been really hindering a lot of my time to make content for you guys. I'm definitely gonna try and push out more videos as time goes on, especially because YouTube is something that I love doing. And even though the content can get repetitive at times, I'll even admit that myself. And some of the content I kind of struggle to bring myself to do, like the Revitalization Saga, Scenario Sins. It's still stuff that I like doing. And I really want to push myself to make more of those types of videos for you guys. And I'm going to try. I'm definitely going to try. It's going to be tough, but I'll see what I can do for that. So, yeah, with that said, hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to strike them likes, flood that subscribe button, and twist that notification bell. Also, be sure to check out our social media pages, which will be linked in the description below. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And with that said, also, if you want to listen to KTR Media, I will leave the link for the KTR Media official website in the link in the description below as well, because I would love to bring in some more listeners, and I'm hoping to further develop that station by adding more capabilities. Like I want to there's a whole list of stuff that I want to do to further advance my hobbies, but if I list them out here, this video will probably drag on forever. So yeah, with that said, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.